Hello, everybody. Welcome to Little Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel, drop a like, all of that stuff. I will once again plug that we are doing a Stephen A. Smith video that should be out later tonight over on the Deep Dives channel. I was not intending on recording a video again. However, Jonathan Kuminga has finally signed a deal with the Golden State Warriors. It is a 2-year, $48.5 million contract, and apparently the deal has a team option designed for the contract to be ripped up and renegotiated next year. At least that's the way that Shams decided to phrase it. So I think it's a little odd that he has a team option on a 2-year deal, because I don't really know why he would want that. But also, if he was about to sign a qualifying offer instead, this obviously means substantially more money. It means 3 times as much money for that 1 year as he would have gotten otherwise. And it also allows for a lot of flexibility for the Warriors. So like Kaminga ultimately ends up getting more money without also being like locked in Golden State forever. But also the Warriors have their financial flexibility. Now, something that I neglected to mention when I talked about this most recently is that apparently the Warriors have a plan for, I believe, the 2027 or 2028 offseason, whichever one it is, to try and go get Giannis or Nikola Jokic, which is baffling for a variety of reasons. I really don't know why you would be appealing to those guys at that point after Stephen Curry has more than likely retired or is literally 40 years old and not really someone you want to be invested in being your co-star for very long. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but overall, financial flexibility isn't a bad thing. And also, in a case of a player like Jonathan Kaminga, I wouldn't want to be locked into him long term either, because while he has displayed the ability to score the ball at a decent volume, he has not displayed an ability to do much all of anything else in the NBA. So that does mean that this is kind of the right happy medium, I want to say. I'm sure he would rather get something else, but he doesn't have to take the qualifying offer. He doesn't have to entirely bet on himself to get generational wealth, but at the same time, it's also not going to fuck over the Warriors in any long-term capacity either. So I'd say this deal is mostly a win-win, although I would say the path it took for us to get here is not. This was such a fucking waste of time. And I think there was it was reported that the Warriors offered him like 3 different contract options. Yeah, okay, here it is. This is from Shams as well. They offered him a 2-year 45 that includes a team option, so I guess that's what he ultimately went with. Then a 3-year $75 million with a team option for the final year, and then a 3-year $54 million deal without the team option. So they said, hey, we will give you essentially $9 million and have that 3rd year available, so you'd make $9 million more, or you can take a 2-year and have the flexibility after the 2nd year, or at the very least after the 3rd year. So it's just kind of been a complete shit show with them. And they also finally signed Al Horford, which is something that has more or less been known was going to happen for a very long time now. But Al Horford is finally there. Kaminga has signed a contract. Also, he will be available to be traded by the time they reach the trade deadline. I think there's like a specific facet in like the length of contract that determines if you can trade them the season they sign it or not. And because it's a shorter contract, they can trade him immediately. But I also might be getting that mixed up. Unfortunately, contracts and salary stuff and all of that never been my strength, but it's only gotten more confusing and troublesome to me as time has gone on. The Warriors also are going to project to have basically the oldest starting lineup of all time. Yeah, okay, here it is from Bobby Marks that he has a January 15th trade restriction. It regains the flexibility to sign a 15th player, but not until the early part of the regular season. They will be hard capped at the 2nd apron after Al signs for the $6 million tax mid-level. Okay. So I don't know what to do about that. Apparently, Seth Curry was also rumored to be signing there, which is some real desperation. But their starting lineup: Stephen Curry, about to be 38. Jimmy Butler, like what, 36, 37. Al Horford is going to be 39 years old this year. I think Draymond Green is going to be 35, 36 years old. So this is an old ass team. The Warriors and the Clippers are competing for who can have the oldest roster possible. Draymond was 34 years old last year. This is such an old team, and it's just so crazy that it took them this long to get to this point. We could have had this video could have come out months ago. Obviously, part of it was letting Kaminga get time to figure out what his offers were going to be, but I feel like it should have been pretty clear, like after a month and a half into the offseason, that nobody was going to sign the dude. So at that point, just figure it out. Like, come on. It's just been a weird offseason for Golden State. I'm glad that this entire story is finally done and over with, but it's also not in its entirety, because Jonathan Kuminga is still at a very weird place with this team. He still doesn't have a really good defined role. He'll probably be essentially the scorer off of the bench for them. However, I don't know that that will pair well. They'll basically have to avoid playing him in lineups that feature both Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green. And if it's Jimmy Butler and then like Trace Jackson Davis, even, like, you can't really do that either. Like, I feel like you'd have to have Jonathan Kuminga play all of his minutes with Al Horford as the center, and he'd have to play almost all of his minutes with either Jimmy or Draymond off of the floor, which really complicates things in terms of that rotation. And I don't know. Hopefully that's a good hefty amount of salary, so there's a decent chance they can trade for a player that's really, really good, at least in that salary bracket. I still think they have some draft capital that they can move, so it's not the end of the world. They could still possibly recover this season. And I like the Al Horford addition. I do think Al Horford will make them better, because their center rotation was really fucking bad in the playoffs last year. And not really to the fault of Kevon Looney nor Trace Jackson Davis, just purely on the factor that they really can't be out there with three non-floor spacers. Doesn't matter if you have the greatest shooter of all time. That's one guy. Maybe one guy who has the amount of spacing influence of like two, but you're not really going to beat you're not going to have a well-spaced offense in 2025 if you have three dudes who just cannot shoot three-pointers. Al Horford can shoot three-pointers, and he's also a pretty good defensive player, a good playmaker, so I think he'll fit right into Golden State's system. He shot 36% from three last year, and basically since 2018, he has shot 38.5% on 4 attempts per game, also 3.5 assists to just 1.1 turnovers. So dude is a good-ass playmaker, good-ass three-point shooter, and I think that will make the spacing for the Warriors offense a lot better. It'll make the Warriors offense in general a lot better. But again, wow, what a terrible road to get here. At least it's over. Please go check out the Stephen A. Smith Hater Manifesto when it comes out. I appreciate you guys so much, but that will be it. Goodbye.